All right, I'm back with my little avatar. I don't know. I need to change something about it. I think I have too many forehead wrinkles. I mean, I do in real life, but maybe not that many. I don't know. I wish I had that much volume in my hair. Anyway, doesn't matter. Don't look at it if you don't like it. All right, we're here talking about Chapter 11, Ethical Issues in Couples and Family Therapy. This is my favorite subject ever. Okay. I love talking about couples and family work. I teach that class. I look forward to teaching y'all in that class. Um, we, this chapter builds on everything we've learned so far about ethical decision making, but it adds a new layer. So we're thinking systemically. So when we're working with couples or family, we're not just treating individuals, we're treating relationships. And so that means our ethical decisions ripple out and affects multiple people at once. And so we're going to talk about that, how you have multiple people and how it kind of adds extra layers. But also, when you're thinking about, I'm going to be a school counselor working with kids, they come from a family. They bring all of their family issues to school with them. When you're working as a clinical counselor with adults, they are going to largely be talking about stress with relationships, or they're excited about a new relationship, or they don't know what to do in their relationship, or they're going to bring in their issues that their mom kind of installed in them. Everyone's inner voice is their parents, whoever took care of them. They're going to bring issues that they had with their siblings. So everybody walks around with the family, even if they're an individual. So even if you feel like, oh, I'm going to be a school counselor, this doesn't pertain to me, or I only want to work with individuals, this doesn't pertain to me. It really does. I wish we had more classes on this. But 60 hours I think is plenty, right? So, okay, let's jump into it. So the systems theory perspective, we'll start with this. System theories tells us that individuals cannot be understood in isolation. They're best understood within their family or relational system. So rather than focusing solely on what someone says, that we call that content, the topic, we pay close attention to how they interact with each other. That's the process, their relationship. So we also consider intergenerational patterns, the ways communication styles, beliefs, and behaviors are passed down through generations. And ethically, this means we must be aware of how our interventions could reinforce or disrupt these patterns. So we're not trying to fix one person, we're helping the entire family function in a healthier way. Right. So, some ethical standards, just an overview. I'm going to kind of refer to the book for each of these. So, the book is pointing you towards, and I think this is good. I like that they do this. They're pointing you towards the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy Ethics, the Code of Ethics from 2015. So responsibility to clients. So this code says that marriage and family therapists advance the welfare of families and individuals and make reasonable efforts to find the appropriate balance between conflicting goals within the family system. So to me, what that really means is that you have to respect and promote the welfare of the clients, but also it's more than that. It's elevated. The relationship is your client, so that is your responsibility. Is really to the relationship. So for confidentiality, marriage and family therapists have unique confidential concerns because the client is in a therapeutic relationship, maybe more than one person. Therapists respect and guard the confidence of each individual client. So it depends on where you work in your agency. So I'll use where I work, for example. We specialize in relational counseling and everyone's trained in EFT. And we really advertise that we specialize in working with couples and families, specifically couples. And the confidentiality is the same, everything in the room stays in the room with the exceptions of those limits of confidentiality we've already covered. But what about the confidentiality between the couple? So part of our assessment is to do an individual session and get an attachment history and just kind of ask, like, is there anything else that want to add that I need to know as your therapist? But with the caveat of knowing that I'm not a secret keeper. So we don't keep secrets between individuals. Now we can for a limited time, say they disclose that there's an ongoing affair or something and they want help disclosing that. And you know, we work with the client together to talk about how we're going to disclose it. It's kind of how you would with a kid, right? Talking to a parent. but we are not secret keepers because that can be such a betrayal to the other partner if that comes out and you've been sitting on that secret. Now, other people come from a different school of thought where you will keep secrets because you want your clients to feel like they can disclose things to you. But I kind of like that where I work, we're not secret keepers. I like, whatever you tell me is fair game for the conjoint sessions. So that's confidentiality when you have multiple people. Professional competence and integrity. Marriage and family therapists maintain high standards of professional competence and integrity, obviously. But really, this just means it's staying on top of your training and knowledge and not, you just get one class in this program. It's really not enough. I mean, there's a whole master's degree dedicated to this work. So if you do want to work with couples, I highly suggest that you get some sort of specialized training outside, after post-graduation, or even if you can do it. I mean, that's a lot, but during your training, if you want to do that. But yeah, so I've had training in the Gottman method, and I'm fully trained in the emotion focused couples therapy. So, all right. So next, responsibility to students and supervisees. This says marriage and family therapists don't exploit the trust and dependency of students and supervisees, of course. But so really what this is talking about is like when you take the family class with me, you'll do a genogram. So it's essentially a family tree with information about relationships, and patterns. And so if you have a pattern, family history of addiction, that would come up in your genogram. And so really just kind of being upfront about that, that you're expecting. I think y'all already know that you're kind of expected to engage in the counseling program kind of further than you would if you were getting a master's in accounting. It's okay to disclose a little bit in class, but we really do a lot of that exploration in family counseling class. So I'm just creating a safe environment for that. Then research and publication, that's kind of with all research with informed consents and all that. So technology assisted professional services, it says theory, supervision, and other professional services engaged in by MFTs often take place over an increasing number of technological platforms. So there's benefits and responsibilities inherent in both these contexts. And so really what I want to say about technology assisted professional services, I've tried to do couples counseling on Zoom, and the couple was in a room together, and then I was, on the other end of the connection. And it was more difficult. It was a lot more difficult, especially to engage the withdrawer. They would just shut down, and there was really no connecting with them through the computer. So I found that to be difficult, and it was really when I first started seeing couples. So maybe I wouldn't find it as difficult now. Um, well, now that I'm a little bit more comfortable, but most recent, I think it was last week, one of our other therapists, she's been doing Zoom couples therapy, and each partner is in a different location. So there's 3 Zoom windows, and she said that's really difficult. So it's possible, but it's just more ideal to do it in person. And maybe that's just because we're just kind of, COVID has kind of thrust telemental health upon us, and we're still getting used to it. So but I would say, accessibility is better than no therapy at all. So Zoom is better than nothing if they can't come in person. So you just try to make it work. But you just got to kind of consider, the real realities and just inform your clients of that. All right, moving on, professional evaluations. Highest standard in providing testimony in various contexts within the legal system. So um, this to me kind of speaks more on family therapy. A lot of places who see kids, like for play therapy, their policy is the purpose of counseling for children is to help children feel better. It is not to help you build a case against your co-parent. And sometimes it's necessary to build a case against the co-parent. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that is not the place. The therapy room with the child is not the place. So a lot of places just say, we don't go to court. That's in our policy. If you don't like it, go find another therapist. Some places, some people who see families and kids, they just charge a lot. They charge like $400 or $500 an hour to appear in court because they want there to be an aversion to it, because it's just really not, you just don't want to turn the therapy room into a case building type situation. So Anyway, just something to think about when you're going to court. Financial arrangements are kind of next on the list. It's not really, yeah, on the slides, it's kind of out of order. I'm just kind of going ordering your book. But marriage and family therapists make financial arrangements with clients, third-party payers, and supervisees that are reasonably understandable and conform to accepted professional practices. So most places don't bill insurance for couples therapy because it won't, there's not a code for couples therapy. Insurance doesn't cover it. And that really shocked me when I started doing this work. So most of our clients are private pay. They just pay with cash or, they don't have any third party payer. And so that's really unfortunate. But there are some certain situations. Let me get a drink of water, I'll tell you. So, for example, if you have a client, I'm thinking of one in particular. So I had a client who'd recently gone inpatient. Both partners were seeing an individual therapist. One partner went inpatient and came out, and the other partner was really struggling with this situation and how to best support their spouse. And so we were able to bill a family session because the insurance that we take will accept will pay for family sessions. So we had the individual that went inpatient as the client, billed for family, and had the spouse come in. And then we just did EFT and worked towards helping, you know, the one spouse support the other spouse. And so that was ethical. That was an ethical way to go about that. But we didn't have to do that. We could have just done private pay. But we like, to work with clients and give them accessibility where we can. So, financial arrangements. Next is advertising. Marriage and family therapists engage in appropriate informational activities, including those that enable the public, referral sources, and others to choose professional services on an informed basis. Basically, meaning just advertise yourself accurately and your competencies and trainings accurately. Advertise them. So, like I said, the group practice that I work at specializes in relational counseling. That's not all we do, but if you want to go look at that website, it's Right Counseling Group, just to kind of see what that advertising looks like. Not a plug, I mean, but just to kind of see what that would look like. All right. So that we're all caught up on this slide. I believe. Boom. All right, so just basically in couples and family works, these categories become more complex because we're managing multiple clients in the same room and sometimes with conflicting needs. Okay, so some more special ethical considerations. One of the special considerations in this setting is that our primary responsibility is to the relationship itself, not to one individual over another. And this can get tricky when one person in the couple tries to align with the therapist, especially so ethically, we must maintain neutrality and balance. So you got to ask yourself, am I acting in a way that benefits the relationship as a whole, or am I favoring one person? And if you are really grounded solidly in a model, when you feel yourself to align with one of the partners, you just fall back on that model and it takes you out of that. I mean, if you can really get good and aligned with it, because that was one thing I was worried about. Okay. So choosing the good of one over the other can harm trust and violate the principles of non-malfeasance and, doing no harm. Um, Existing client requests. Let's see. Yeah. How would you handle? So what if an existing client requests couples counseling? How might you handle building rapport with that partner? How would you handle that? So this can create a dual relationship. You already have a therapeutic alliance with one person, so it's hard to be perceived as neutral when their partner joins. So ask yourself if you can truly be impartial or if prior knowledge creates bias. So if not, it's often best to refer the couple to another therapist. And if you proceed, informed consent and transparency is essential. So if you work in a small community and maybe you're the only resource, you might have to. But if you have the luxury of referring out to maintain that individual alliance and then let them go have their couples counseling with another couples. That's what we do in our practice. You can go from 2 to 1. So say you see in the couple and one drops out, they break up, whatever happens, and you still want to see that one, that's easier to do. You can never go back to seeing them both again, though, in my opinion, um, because you've now you're overly aligned with one over the other. So it gets sticky and it happens. All right, moving on. So, informed consent in couples and family therapy. Each family member or partner must understand the purpose of therapy, the limits of confidentiality, harm to self, harm to others, child abuse, those types of things, use of vulnerable adults. All right. So, also typical procedures. This needs to be covered in informed consent, the rights and responsibilities of the client, that any family member can withdraw at any time, and what to expect from the therapist, the risks, the benefits, and the fee structure. So you have to clarify what happens if someone drops out or requests individual sessions, and transparency builds trust. So whatever your agency's rules and policies and procedures are, you just follow that. But you have to be clear and upfront. All right. And then beyond informed consent, think carefully about boundaries and roles. Will you see any members individually? If so, what information can be shared in joint sessions? Establish these rules early on to prevent conflicts and maintain ethical clarity around confidentiality and trust. And like I said, in EFT, we do individual attachment histories. And so I meet with the client together for the first session. Then the next two sessions are one with one with the other, and then we come back for another conjoint session to kind of put it all together, and then we begin the work. So it's about 4 sessions of assessment. Sometimes they will come individually. They'll just show up and they'll say, so and so couldn't make it, but I'm here. If you meet individually with one, you got to balance it and meet individually with the other. Otherwise, it starts to be unfair. So just keep that in mind. All right, other considerations. Let's see here. So, qualities of a good family therapist. What do you think makes a good family therapist? Just kind of reflect on that. I think it includes empathy, patience, flexibility for sure, and the ability to see multiple perspectives. Ethically, a good family therapist avoids taking sides. We stay aware of power dynamics and we practice cultural humility for sure. Training and supervision requirements. Ethical practice depends on appropriate training and supervision. Family system works is it's complex. It requires specialized knowledge in systemic dynamics, communication patterns, and relational ethics. So supervision helps therapists manage countertransference and triangulation. And me with my big LPCS, been doing this for years. I've been a counselor since 2008. I still have a semi-weekly appointment with a supervisor to talk about my couple's work because it's just a lot. So, let's see where we're at here. So working with adequate preparation, if you don't have the training and the supervision, you could violate your ACA code of ethics, just only practicing within the boundaries of your competence. So make sure it's okay to, not be an expert to start it, but you got to be in supervision. All right. And then also our personal values inevitably show up in the therapy room, but they should never steer the session. So imposing your values can create shame or harm, but instead focus on values clarification, helping clients explore their own beliefs. So it's our ethical duty to foster autonomy, not conformity to what we think they ought to be doing. It's easier said than done. All right, gender sensitive and a feminist perspective. So historically, therapy often reinforced traditional roles. Think of all the white men that you've learned about in your theories class. Feminist therapy challenges these imbalances by examining power, voice, and equality. You need to ask who holds the decision-making power, whose needs are prioritized, and how do gender norms appear. These questions promote equity and ethical awareness. So, what were your gender roles in your family of origin? I want you to think about that. Did you notice those same patterns now? Did those play out in your current life? Recognize these dynamics that can help you grow as a counselor for sure, and as a partner or a family member yourself. So this self-awareness supports ethical competence. And then when you hear the word feminist, what comes to mind? Do you think of somebody burning their bra or, what do you think of? Man hating? Is that kind of, that's really, I hate that, but um, some people kind of go there when they think of the word feminist. So in therapy, it's not about that. It's about equity and empowerment for all, not opposition. We're not against anyone. So, feminist perspective in couples therapy emphasizes mutual respect, shared decision making, and validation of each partner's experience. You also may have couples who really enjoy their gender roles. You've got to let the couple lead with that. You got to figure out what their culture is and stay humble. And then just some other things to think about. So, what is your responsibility when confronted with intimate partner violence? This is one of the contraindications of EFT. If we suspect abuse and IPV, intimate partner violence, we won't do it. We won't do couples therapy because it can just create more danger for whoever the victim is. And it really, you can't really do anything with that. You really have to get the other person, just offer them help if you can. And then this is a good one. Is it child abuse for a child to witness domestic violence? So maybe the child isn't being directly harmed, but they're being psychologically harmed by witnessing this. What will CPS do? In my experience in reporting this kind of thing, it's in Mississippi, it's not much, but I doesn't hurt to try, right? And then is it better to work with couples individually or in conjoint sessions? Always conjoint. You got to work, you got to get the emotion alive, you got to get the process and dynamics alive. But sometimes individual sessions are good. Sometimes when it's the heat's just turned up and you need to regroup and get more information on the couple's like attachment history. And when I say attachment history, it's really like who did they go to for comfort as a child? What was it like growing up? Who was in their household? Was there any trauma, child sexual assault, things like that, sexual abuse and things. So the attachment history, um, you would do that individually because it takes some time, and then the other partner is just kind of sitting there. And if they want to just come sit there, I mean that's okay too. But um, it's nice to at least have one individual session especially in the beginning, because one question that I'll ask in an individual session is there anything that maybe it's not necessarily a secret, but it's something that you're not really sure how to broach in front of your partner? Anything you want me to know, anything I should be aware of? And most times they say, no, no, not really. But sometimes they're like, yeah, there's just kind of one thing. And they'll disclose something. And it's not a secret. They just need help figuring out how to approach the topic with their partner. And that's something that we can help them with. So, all right. Confidentiality. I touched on this in the beginning. We'll talk about it some more. Confidentiality becomes more complex in multi-person therapy because you've got multiple people. The ethical and legal exceptions remain the same, but now they apply to multiple people. So therapists must clarify their policy on secrets. Like I talked about earlier with secret keeping. Do we keep secrets between them, or is everything fair game? So for example, if one partner discloses an affair privately, what's your policy? Mine is we don't keep secrets. Whatever it is, you got to be clearly stated in the informed consent. And then you may break confidentiality if there's a risk of harm, suspected abuse, or a court order, of course. Those are the limits of confidentiality. Those are some of them. These obligations override confidentiality, but sharing private details between clients, doesn't override. So, are clients legally required to maintain confidentiality? No, outside of sessions. So they may go, and spread their business. One of them may talk about it to their best friend. We can't control that. That's not a HIPAA violation if they do that. It's us. We're the ones that are legally bound. So only the therapist is bound by law. So you got to encourage respect. This is too in group therapy too, but you encourage respect for privacy. Kind of explain to them how it might damage the relationship. It helps them preserve trust and safety. So yeah, we're the only ones that have a HIPAA violation. They may say, "Oh, my wife told her best friend about all her stuff that we talked about in therapy, and that's a HIPAA violation." No, it's not. Not legally. It's definitely a violation of trust, though. So, All right. I want to talk about a couple other things. We've talked about technology assisted stuff and how that's kind of wonky. Um, you want to avoid exaggerated advertising claims like I can guarantee I can save your marriage. You never want to promise that you can save somebody's marriage because you don't know. Sometimes marriage counseling turns into divorce counseling, which can also be helpful, especially if they have kids, for them to separate amicably and have a productive, healthy relationship so that they can raise their children in a healthy environment. Um, and then we talked about financial arrangements. Okay. So, ethical practice in couples and family therapy requires awareness of boundaries, fairness, transparency, and compassion. Compassion for sure. So, I guess we're just kind of summarizing every decision affects multiple lives. As you move forward, think about how you can honor both individuals and the relationship itself. So, again, this is one of my favorite topics. I can't wait to talk to y'all about it in class. And thank y'all so much for listening.